Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. Rumi. The mind is not a problem you need to solve. It is the place where you are disappearing while believing you are living. Everything you call me exists only while you are absent from the now. The instant the present actually happens, that identity begins to disappear. And while you try to think your way out, the only place where the mind ever rests is happening now, without you. The mind will never give you peace, because it exists only when you are away from the present. This video is not about learning something new, it is about stopping now. Stopping the escape, stopping the thinking, stopping getting lost inside your own head. If you feel tired without knowing why, restless even when everything seems fine, it is because you live trapped in the mind and far from the present. Rumi points to this without softening it. While you live in thoughts, you do not live. Here, you will see yourself exposed, confronted, and at the same time feel relief, because there is a place where the mind rests, and that place is now. Now, listen with brutal attention, because practice begins when you stop deceiving yourself. You are not almost present. Either you are here or you are not. The mind loves gray zones so it can stay in control. Rumi was never gentle with self-deception. He pointed directly, if you are thinking about the now, you have already left it. Practice begins the moment you notice your absence and admit it without excuse. This admission cuts deeper than any technique. The first practical gesture is to interrupt the impulse to explain everything. Every time something arises in you and the mind rushes to give it a name, a cause, a story, you cut it off, not with anger, with decision. You feel before you understand, feel the tightness, feel the heat, feel the emptiness, no captions, the mind lives on captions. The present lives on sensation. When you stay with raw sensation, the mind loses the stage. This is not pretty, it is real. Practice requires courage because the present is naked. Without distraction, without narrative, you meet what you were avoiding. Anxiety without a story, fear without a reason, fatigue without justification. Rumi did not promise immediate comfort. He promised truth, and truth begins when you stop running from what you feel now. Running is mind, staying is presence. There is no middle ground. Now do something simple and uncomfortable. Stop for 2 seconds. Do nothing. Do not adjust posture. Do not look for the breath. Just stop. See how the mind panics. It wants to fill the space. It wants to comment. It wants to run. The practice is not obeying, remaining still inside while everything wants to move. This small act is a rupture. The mind begins to realize it no longer rules alone. Rumi spoke of silence as a fire, not as absence, but as a force that consumes the false. When you become silent inside, without manufacturing thoughts, this fire begins to burn fragile identities. The mind will scream that you are wasting time. That is the sign the practice is working. The mind only screams when it is losing power. The aggressive practice is this. Whenever a thought arises, you neither follow it nor fight it. You let it starve. Thought lives on attention. Remove the attention. Return to the body. Return to now. 1,000 times. 10,000 times. Not one beautiful session per day, but in every moment you get lost. Rumi taught conscious repetition, not occasional ecstasy. Want something even more direct? Observe the next thought as if it belonged to someone else. Not my thought, just a thought passing by. This simple shift breaks identification. When you do not identify, the mind weakens, and when it weakens, the present naturally occupies the space. There is no effort, only the absence of interference. The mind will try to negotiate. It will say you can practice later, that now is not the right moment, that this requires calm, environment, time. A lie. The present does not wait for conditions. It only exists now. Real practice happens in the middle of chaos, noise, discomfort. If you can only be present when everything is calm, you have learned nothing. Rumi never spoke of escaping the world, but of presence within it. Another brutal practice. Feel the body when the mind wants to escape. Whenever the urge arises to grab your phone, distract yourself, think about something else, stop and feel the body. Where's the restlessness? Where's the impulse? Stay there, without acting, without fixing. This breaks the addiction to escape. The mind flees, the present sustains. Rumi said the heart awakens when you stop obeying blind impulses. Every time you do not follow the automatic impulse, you anchor yourself in the now. This is not repression, it is awareness. Repression pushes, awareness observes. Observe until the impulse loses strength. It does, it always does, but only if you do not run first. Practice also means cutting excess inner words. You do not need to narrate your life. You do not need to comment on everything mentally. Most suffering comes from this endless commentary. The practice is simple and hard. Do not comment. Live directly, feel directly, act directly. When you live directly, the mind loses its unnecessary function. It withdraws. You will notice that the present is not passive. It is intense, alive, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes silent. The mind prefers drama because drama gives identity. The present gives no identity. It dissolves. That is why it scares. Rumi spoke of dissolution as the path, not to disappear, but to be real. Practice demands that you stop defining yourself. Every definition is mental. I am this. I am that. In the present, you are not a concept, you are experience. Every time you define yourself, you leave. Every time you feel, you enter. This is radical. It dismantles years of conditioning. That is why the mind resists so strongly. Now, something shocking. You do not need to improve to be present. You need to stop trying to improve. The attempt to improve is the mind projecting a future. The present does not improve. It is. Rumi pointed this out without mercy. The idea of constant evolution may be just another escape from now. The practice is to abandon the search for a few moments, and in those moments something greater happens. Real practice also includes constant failure. You will leave the present countless times, and each departure is part of the training. The mistake is not leaving. The mistake is judging yourself for leaving. Judgment reinforces the mind. Returning dissolves it. Always return. Always now. This is the only discipline that matters in living Sufism. Another practical key. Truly listen. When someone speaks, listen without preparing a response, without agreeing or disagreeing inside. Just listen. This drags you violently into the present. The mind hates listening without commenting. That is why this practice is so powerful. The now imposes itself when you are whole in listening. Rumi said that presence is love without an object. When you are present, you do not need to love something specific. There is an openness, a receptivity. This is not sentimental. It is a state. And this state is born from the raw practice of staying here. Nothing more. No ornament. No exaggerated promise. You begin to notice that time changes. 1 minute of presence is worth more than hours of mind. The quality changes, the density changes, life gains thickness. This does not come from understanding Rumi. It comes from living what he pointed to, and he always pointed to the same place. Here. Now. No escape. And the more you practice like this, the more something unsettling appears. The fear of disappearing. The mind fears the present because in the present it is not the center. This fear is the final guardian, and crossing it is not theoretical, it is practical. It is staying here even with fear. Rumi crossed this and left the map. If you continue, something begins to fall away. Roles, stories, old tensions. Not all at once, but continuously. And the present stops being an effort and becomes a dwelling. And when that happens, an inevitable question begins to arise within you. A question the mind has always avoided. A question about who you are without it. The fear that arises when you stay in the present is not imaginary. It is physical. Tightness in the chest. Emptiness in the stomach. A sensation of falling. Practice begins when you do not move in response to this. The mind will scream for you to escape, to think, to distract yourself. Rumi pointed to the opposite. Stay. Stay like someone crossing fire without running. Fear exists only because the mind senses it is losing the throne. If you flee, it wins. If you stay, something stronger is born. Aggressive practice is stopping the habit of asking the mind for permission. You do not ask whether it is comfortable to stay here. You stay, even trembling, even confused, even without understanding. The present does not require mental clarity, it requires bodily presence. Feel the whole body now, not parts, the whole. The body does not lie, the mind does. When you anchor in the body, you cut the internal discourse at the root. Now observe the impulse to get somewhere. Enlightenment, peace, rest, deep silence. All of this can become a mental trap. Rumi never taught the pursuit of states. He taught remaining. States come and go. The present remains. Practice is abandoning obsession with results. Every time you want a result, you have left. Every time you return, you are here. The mind will try to be spiritual. It will say, this is deep, elevated, special. Cut that. That too is mind. Real practice is raw, simple, almost boring. Staying here, feeling the weight of the body, feeling the breath without controlling it, feeling discomfort without explaining it. This gives no status. It gives truth. Rumi spoke to those who wanted truth, not a spiritual identity. Next brutal practice. Stop observing yourself as a character. Do not watch yourself as if you were in a movie. That is still mind. Just be. Sensation without an intellectual observer. This is difficult because the mind always wants to place itself at the center. The present has no center. It is a field. When you enter this, something dismantles. When thoughts come in an avalanche, do not try to organize them. Do not try to choose the best one. Do not try to resolve them. Practice is letting everything be messy and staying here anyway. The mind believes that without control, everything will collapse. Direct experience shows the opposite. When you do not interfere, everything reorganizes itself. Rumi trusted this because he lived it. Practice also requires cutting internal dramatization. The mind turns everything into a story. This is too much. I won't manage. This is dangerous. Oh, these are stories. Practice is feeling without a story. Pure sensation. Drama exists only in narrative. When narrative falls, energy remains. Living energy. Living presence. Now something even more direct. Use pain as an anchor. Whenever something hurts emotionally, you have a rare chance to enter the present. Pain pulls you into now. The mind tries to flee it. Do not flee. Use it. Stay with the sensation of pain without justifying it. This is practical Sufism, turning poison into medicine. Rumi did this with words. You do it with presence. You will notice the mind trying to accelerate. Fast thoughts, urgency, anxiety. Practice is not forcing slowness. It is not following. You let the mind run on its own while you stay. Like someone standing still watching a river pass. The river runs. You do not. This image is ancient in Sufism because it works. The mind tires before you do. Another cutting practice. Do not believe the next thought. Do not argue with it. Do not analyze whether it is true or false. Simply do not believe it. A thought without belief loses power. When you stop believing, it becomes noise. The present emerges when the noise loses importance. The mind will try to convince you that you need to understand all this to function better. A lie. Children function in the present without understanding any of this. Animals live in the present without method. Practice is unlearning. Rumi spoke more of detachment than accumulation. You do not add presence, you remove interference. Now observe how you hold your body. Jaw clenched, shoulders tense, belly contracted. Practice is consciously relaxing, not to feel good, but to release control. Control lives in tension. When you release the body, the mind loses physical support. This is practical. This is immediate. Practice also means saying no to inner haste. Even when everything demands speed, you act without haste inside. Haste is mental. Action can be fast and still present. This changes everything. Rumi lived in the world, not outside it. Presence does not make you slow, it makes you precise. You will realize that the present reveals things you have avoided for years. Simple truths, false relationships, wrong paths. The mind used noise to keep these from appearing. Practice is not closing your eyes to what arises, seeing without fleeing. This hurts and it frees, always in that order. Aggressive practice also means stopping the use of spirituality as distraction. Videos, quotes, concepts can become sophisticated escape. Rumi used words to point to silence, not to occupy the mind. If words do not lead you to now, they are noise. Use everything only as an arrow, never as shelter. When you begin to remain in the present for longer, something strange happens. The world seems simpler and more intense at the same time. Sounds more alive, colors more real, emotions clearer. This is not mystical. It is the absence of a mental filter. The present does not beautify. It reveals. And here is a shock the mind hates. You do not control presence. You only stop blocking it. Every attempt to control turns into mind. Practice is active surrender. You do not give up on life. You give up mental control over it. Rumi called this radical trust in the real. You begin to notice that silence is not empty. It is full of intelligence. An intelligence that does not think but knows. When you trust this, the mind naturally recedes, not by defeat but by uselessness. It enters only when you call it, and if you continue staying here, even when everything in you wants to flee, a new phase begins to suggest itself. A phase where it is not only the mind that falls, but the image you had of yourself. Something deeper begins to be questioned, something about identity. Something about who is observing all of this. This discomfort you feel is not anxiety without reason. It is not weakness. It is not lack of strength. It is excess mind. The mind talks all the time, repeats itself, demands, judges, creates scenarios that do not exist. You wake up already thinking about what is missing, spend the day reacting, and lie down with a tired body and a restless head. Rumi looked at this and did not call it life. He saw it as a kind of exile. You are alive, but you are not here. And everything that hurts in you is born from this absence from the present. The mind promises control, but delivers exhaustion. It promises safety, but generates tension. The more you try to organize everything inside, the more confused it becomes. And deep down you know it. The problem is not the world, it is where you are living inside yourself. The mind functions like a narrator that never falls silent. It comments on everything, judges everything, anticipates losses, relives guilt. And you have mistaken this voice for yourself. Rumi points this out simply. You are not the thought, you are the one who perceives the thought. But as long as you believe every sentence that passes through your head, you remain trapped in it. The mind lives in the past and the future. It does not know how to live now. That is why the more mind there is, the less presence there is. And the less presence, the more nameless pain appears. This emptiness you feel in your chest is not lack of meaning, it is lack of now. The present is not a beautiful concept. The present is a real place. It is the only place where the mind loses strength. When you are fully here, the mind has nowhere to lean. It only exists when you are absent. Rumi did not teach fighting the mind because fighting is still being inside it. He pointed to something more direct. See, just see. When you observe the mind without following it, without arguing with it, something in you loosens. It is like leaving a noisy room and entering silence without effort. Rest does not come from thinking better. It comes from stopping thinking for a moment. Perhaps you have been trying to fix yourself for years, to improve, to evolve, to understand, and none of that has brought real rest. Because rest does not come from solutions, it comes from presence. The mind always wants one more step, one more answer, one more control. The present wants nothing. It simply is. And this frightens the mind because in the present it loses command. That is why it creates urgency, fear, distraction to keep you from staying here. Rumi knew this. The mind is an excellent servant but a terrible master. When it rules, you live tense. When you return to the present, something greater takes over. Leaving the mind is not erasing thoughts. It is stopping living inside them. It is feeling the body now, the weight of the body, the air entering, the ground supporting you, things too simple for the mind to value, but deep enough to dissolve it. Sufism has always pointed to this. God, the real, the living, is not in thoughts about Him, but in direct experience. When you are fully here, there is no conflict. Not because problems disappeared, but because the mind is no longer creating 100 problems out of one. Do you notice how the mind always takes you away? Away from what is actually happening, away from touch, from sound, from breath, away from yourself. And then you wonder why you feel empty. Rumi would say, you left home and forgot the way back. The present is that way. Not tomorrow, not after you understand everything. Now, this exact instant. The mind hates this because it cannot control the now. And that is exactly why the now heals. When you enter the present, something relaxes without explanation. The body understands before the mind, the chest softens, the breath drops, the weight lessens. It is not mystical, it is direct. It is leaving the noise and entering the silence that has always been here. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of inner struggle. Rumi spoke of the heart as this living place where the mind becomes quiet, not because it was forced to, but because it is no longer needed. Perhaps you are waiting for a great moment, a great turning point, a great awakening, and this is yet another trap of the mind. The present does not arrive with spectacle, it is already here, ignored. And while you search for something grand, you remain trapped in the same cycle of thoughts. Rumi pointed to the obvious that no one wants to see. What you are seeking is already happening. You are just not present enough to notice it. What if the rest you want is not in the future? What if the peace you seek does not come from understanding more, but from stopping now? What if leaving the mind is simply not following the next thought? Just that, nothing more. It is too simple for the mind to accept, yet deep enough to dismantle it. When you stop chasing thought, it loses strength. When it loses strength, the present appears, and when the present appears, something in you finally rests. If you made it this far, it was not curiosity, it was exhaustion from the mind. This video is not something you understood, it is something that has begun to happen. Now you either return to the noise or you deepen this presence until it becomes your dwelling. Subscribe to the channel and continue this path with Rumi, not as beautiful poetry but as living practice. Like and save this video to return to it when the mind tries to regain control. Share it with someone who lives trapped in their head and needs real rest. Here you do not learn to think better. Here you learn to stop.